All right, everybody. We are back, all three of us together in one place for episode 167 of this fantasy timeline show that we do. I'm Josh at Real Fantasy TL. The man below me is my main man, Bill at Super Duper Flex. The guy to my I did it right with the mirroring. I love it. That guy is the co-host with the most, Drew at Dr._PRA. Fellas, how are you doing?
Doing good. Man, it's like halfway through the regular season almost now. It's just crazy. I mean, not quite, but it's we're getting into the bye weeks. Things are getting a little more challenging for those teams that you maybe built with less depth. So it's a fun time. You see a lot more wheeling and dealing in the leagues, it feels like right now. I've seen more trades and offers in the last 5 days, I think, than I have probably the last 3 weeks.
Craziest part about that is you are not the first person that I heard say that today. So, yeah, man, we're getting to that point. I think most teams know if they're, shooting for 2024 or if this is their year to try and win a championship. And we're going to talk about a lot of those things. But before we get there, we're going to do what we do every week to start the show. It's going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly from week 6. Drew, start us off with some good news. What was the goodness from week 6?
Are we on this week or next week already?
Week 5, week 6. I don't care. I'm ready for week 6. I'm excited. Leave me alone.
I'll make some predictions. For week 5, Ja'Marr Chase made good on his presser after last week's game, right? After week 4, he in fact did look like 7-11, always open, almost getting 20 targets was ridiculous with, no T. Higgins, but that was wild, and hopefully not everybody had to face him in as many leagues as I did. So, we got a lot of my first L's this week thanks to Ja'Marr Chase and DJ Moore.
Yeah, I mean, as my good close personal friend Deion Sanders says, he is him, and he proved it. The Bengals for at least 1 week look like the Bengals that we kind of expected starting the year. We'll see if this was a one-off or if this is the start of something very good. All right, Bill, bring us down with the bad.
So the bad is Mac Jones. He has had a pretty rough 2 weeks in a row. I think in timeline OG, he has tallied negative point something if you cumulatively for week 4 and 5. And he didn't make it through the end of either game. So just a bad situation right now. And, I really felt bad for him last year, where he's kind of reaching out to try to get help outside of the Patriots coaching staff and everything. And he just wants to win. That was kind of my thought. And now it just almost feels like he's kind of a head case a little bit. There's some things going on with him. I blame Matt Patricia being the offensive coordinator last year. Now I'm starting to wonder, how much of it is him also. I understand he doesn't have the best receivers to throw to, things like that. But at the same time, it's bad. And I was going to say it's ugly, but I can't use ugly because that's what you're going to do, Josh. And
as the official holder of the ugly,
yeah,
I will allow you to use it, because it was ugly. It made me want to lose it watching him play.
But yeah, it's tough. I'm just curious what where they go from here, because Zappy hasn't looked good either. It's just a situation where we might be seeing the crumbling of the castle, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out over the course of the next 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, I had this rant and it was kind of Justin Fields related, but why on earth are teams taking quarterbacks in the first round, top 15, 16, 17 picks, and then just going, nah, let's not get them receivers. We'll figure out the offensive line later. It makes no sense. If that's the case, draft somebody in the fourth round and then at least give yourself the excuse that, the guy was drafted in the fourth round. He wasn't projected to be good. I don't get it.
Yeah, it feels like, there's like the haves and have-nots in the NFL now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the coaching staff, the front office. It's teams either have it figured out or they don't. And
yeah,
I feel like the Bills were kind of the blueprint to kind of dig yourself out of a hole a bit, and they just started building from the line and just kind of building outward, and have a good defense, have a good coach, there's a lot of things that you can and then you add the quarterback, then you add the wide receiver, and then it seems like they built it the right way. And I feel like the Lions are kind of doing the same thing. And I mean, the Cow, just including all of our teams, I mean, the Cowboys always have a good offensive line. And so it gives you a good baseline. Like at the minimum, you can do this, right? And most people can do a little better when they have protection or they have good blocking, run blocking, so it's just so much more can get done. Or if you have a defensive line that can get to the quarterback, build from the trenches and then figure it out from there.
Yeah, so true. I mean, we'll go back to the Bills because I think you're right. I think they were kind of the blueprint of like, hey, how do we take a franchise that maybe has been through many tough years and kind of build them into a contender? And they started with the Lions. And then they got Josh Allen, and year one was not good. I know we all look at Josh Allen now. And we're like, he's one of the, top 3, maybe top 5 if you really are a little sour on him. After year one, they were like, listen, he's throwing to the 3 of us. Like, let's get him a guy. All right, we're trading for Stephon Diggs. They didn't wait 2 seasons. They didn't wait 3 seasons. They didn't let Josh Allen totally get, as Bill, you described it so well, just like inside of his head and become a basket case because he's like, well, I can't throw to anyone. I'm not getting blocking, and I don't get it. Like, I feel like it's not very hard if the plan is to take a first round quarterback. It's like, okay, let's make sure we can surround this guy with as much talent as humanly possible. Do we have receivers to throw to? I mean, Jaguars are another example. Trevor Lawrence's first year, he was not throwing to NFL caliber receivers. They pay Christian Kirk. Everybody made fun of him. Oh, you got to pay too much money. They bring in Zay Jones. They trade for Calvin Ridley. Now all of a sudden we're like, Jaguars offense, they look all right. They're not too bad. So, yeah, I think, like you said, some teams get it and some teams don't. But all right, let's get into the ugly here. And the ugly is the blue medical tent. What do I mean by that, right? That blue medical tent ate so many of our favorite players this week. Anthony Richardson, blue medical tent. We have Justin Jefferson, blue medical tent. Travis Kelce, blue medical tent. I mean, and that's not even on top of guys that were just on bye this week. We had Mike Evans on bye. We had a lot of guys that, really just kind of changed change the landscape of games, change the landscape of possibly what our seasons may look like with, Justin Jefferson probably be out multiple weeks, Anthony Richardson being out multiple weeks. Wow. Devin Achane multiple weeks. So, yeah. Blue medical tent probably affected us all in one way or another. We probably lost some guys. We probably got lucky in some matchups and maybe won some matchups. So that's the ugly, the blue medical tent. It ate up our teams. It hurt us. It hurt us a lot.
Yeah, it seems like that might be another reason we're seeing a lot more movement this week with trades. Just a lot of people are kind of like scrambling because they're like, oh shit, I just lost my number one receiver, my number one running back, my number one rookie quarterback that I was relying on. Yeah, just a lot of big names getting dinged up. Connor, there's a lot of guys that are out for a decent chunk, and the problem is they say 4 weeks, but you don't know if it's 4 weeks or it's 10 weeks. So it's like,
right.
And this is like a tough time to make that decision because it's like, okay, well, if I sit back and just say I'm going to wait until player X comes back, well, player X might not come back until your team's decimated and or their team's decimated. So then they go, okay, we'll take 2 more weeks because we don't need you back because you're 1-6 or whatever, or 1-9. So yeah, it's a tough thing it's tough on fantasy owners to make a decision. Drew, what do you think? What's the thought process losing some of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, if you walked out of this week, 4-1, 5-0, I think you have to try to ride it out. You make some smaller moves to just try to patch things together. I forgot who I saw earlier today put a tweet out there like, you can go ahead and set your week 6 lineups, but then just for fun, go ahead and try to set your week 7 lineup with those buys that are coming. And it's like, never mind if you've got one of these guys that's out for the next 4 weeks on IR. So you have to take stock of not only where your team is, take a look at your league, see where scoring is, try to get a couple weeks ahead, maybe try to make some moves. And if you subscribe to some sites that give you some tools to look ahead to maybe like leading up to the playoffs or the first couple weeks of the playoffs, and make some moves for them and just hope that you make it there. Otherwise, I think you and I talked last week, Bill, where, you may have missed the window to be the worst team in your league, but with some of these injuries now, especially if you're a potential points league, you may have gotten your second window to try to, throw it in for this season, like Josh said, and really try to make some moves to, make your points really low while setting yourself up for next year.
And Drew, this is why you're the best in the business, because making moves, we're gonna slide right into some trade talks. The great thing about being on the show with you two guys is that we text each other, pretty frequently. We talk about everything, and one of the things we talk about a lot is trades. Hey, I got this trade. What's going on? So, I don't know if you guys have inbox trades. I have a couple, so I'll start with one, and if you guys have some, we'll kind of rotate around and see where we end up. So, the first one that I'll bring to your attention, Bill, because this is in a league where Drew and I co-own a team. We are one of those teams that is we're in a race to the bottom. We are currently the 3rd worst team, and I actually don't know how we're doing as well as we are because we've done this the right way. So the team is not very good. This is a 14-team league. Super flex, PPR, tight ends get 2.0, just so you get some background. We have one Anthony Pollard, Tony, to you guys, and sent a couple offers out. So sent one Pollard for JSN straight up. sent another one, Pollard, for Metcalf straight up. So the Metcalf owner got back to us and countered with Pollard for Pittman. I'm not a big Pittman guy, but talked it over with Drew. Drew said, "Can we counter with like Pittman in a second for Pollard and Robert Woods?" Said, "Okay, I'm gonna hold on that though because the JSN owner had not gotten back to us yet." So he messages me privately and says, "Hey, would you rather take my first? I don't want to give up JSN because I feel like my depth is not great. And if I get a couple injuries, JSN might be a dude that I got to start." And my response to Drew was, I feel like Pollard is worth a little bit more than a first, especially since this team is currently top 3. So in a 14 leaguer, we're looking somewhere between 10 and 14 in that area. So would you, Bill, in this situation, make the trade Pollard for first, or are you thinking a little bit more like me and maybe should be a little extra sweetener on top of the first? Talking with the mute on, classic Bill.
Yeah, I think that I think I would need more than just the first if it's going to be like 10 to 14. Just because, like, the Cowboys' schedule opens up a bit moving forward, so it's going to look a little better. B, it could end up being pick 14, and that's like 202 for Pollard. Like, that just seems ridiculously light to me.
Yeah.
I'd almost rather go with the player. I would almost rather go with Pittman than that first, personally. I agree with you. I'm not a huge Pittman guy, but he's going to have a pretty good, like a gunslinger thrown to him, I guess is the best way to say it, for the next 4 to 8 weeks.
True that.
So maybe you can flip him moving forward. I don't know. I think the offense is going to open up a bit just because with Jonathan Taylor back and things like that. But you're making a trade to make another trade in that regard, so not necessarily the best thing. I would almost like if the guy with JSN would move JSN to you guys, and even if you have to throw something on top, that would be my most ideal situation in all of it because you're not scoring points, you're getting something with somebody with upside, and that upside might not happen until next year. But I'd much rather have JSN than the first, right? Like that's a sure thing. So, but if the option is either to take the first or Pittman, or to counter that one with Woods in the second, I would probably go looking with the Pittman owner.
All right, so I'm a man that likes options, so I don't have an issue kind of rolling with the counter on Pittman, but do you think Pollard and a second for JSN is sweet enough to maybe grease that wheel?
I think it would because your second is early.
Well, we have 2 seconds. I told you we've done this right. We have some picks that we can sprinkle on this thing. I'm actually trying to. All right, so that pick is mid-ish. I mean, the team is 6th right now, so they're right on the cusp of a playoff spot. It could go a couple spots higher, could go a couple spots lower. So I was more thinking about that pick, that second round, and still keeping ours. Do you like that? Do you think it's too light, too heavy?
No, I mean, that's fine. I think that anything like probably mid-second,
Okay.
and back are things that I use as chips to get something to happen. So like I'm totally fine giving up. Like I'm not worried if like a calculator tells me that that's more than
Right.
than what I'm getting, because you're getting what you want out of it. You're getting a player that is gonna probably not pick up until the second half of the season, so you'll be scoring less points. But um, if you get pick from the guy, I mean, you're not getting any points. So I mean, that's the other thing, and so maybe you get a pick his first and second. That's something I would consider asking
Mhm.
for. It's still, I'm not even sure I'm really happy with that, but
Okay.
What
maybe
about
Pollard is who he is. Go ahead, Drew.
I was just looking through the roster here. What is the gap between JSN and Olave for you?
I mean, it's probably sizable. Um, I mean, I think Olave is easier to get at the moment than he was
Mm-hmm.
a month and a half ago. But I think JSN's more gettable than he was a month and a half ago as well. So I would have to say that it's at least a first difference, right? Like
Yeah.
between Olave and JSN.
I would. I mean, personally, I would love to get Olave, but
Am I
that's
wrong? Or
no. I think you're pretty spot on because I still think that I think the name value of Olave still is high. I don't think many people will go, I don't know about Chris Olave. I don't think he's going to be very good. I think it's more of a, you know,
the
nah,
situation's been tough. Yeah.
yeah. I think I think we'll hear more of that than, man, he just had a good rookie year and this is, the end of Chris Olave. We're never hearing from the dude again. Um, so in your wise opinion, Pollard for the first and the second, or Pollard and our second, or one of our seconds for JSN? Actually, you know what? I told you I like options. I'm just going to send them both.
I mean, like I'm just talking this out, and let me know, Drew, what you think on this. Is like, okay, JSN was about 105 when he was drafted. Like, what do you think? Maybe like, you think there's some people that might be willing to move him for like a mid to late first next year and just do like a re-roll? Do you think maybe like a 108 is kind of his value ish?
Yeah, I think for people that are going to be patient, they could see that.
So, like,
I
if you
think,
were gonna do the late first and the late second, that would probably be at least in the ballpark of like the 108, 109 range. Um, and then the other one was where, so like, but you're giving up a second on top to get JSN, which, so I feel like if talking it out now, maybe maybe the first and second is ideal to the second and Pollard for JSN.
For the player, yeah.
all
I
right.
mean,
So,
there's part of me that wants to find out, like, again, where this person is on a Chris Olave. And if we give up our second, which is going to be early, give Pollard in our early second and see if we can bump up there. And if we start
okay.
anchoring
Yeah,
on
I don't
that
hate
end, then
that
maybe
either. I mean, that might be the
JSN
way to go
loosens
with
up.
the options. Like, do one option with
Olave and one with JSN.
or you just go to Olave right now. Don't give them the option because you want to get a feel of where they are with Olave, because maybe you will be able to work something out if you prefer Olave versus JSN.
So, all right. So I'm gearing this up as we're talking. So before I hit the, don't want to do that. Before I almost put a first in there, don't want to do that. Um, So right now in the trade proposals, I got Chris Olave for Pollard and our second, which is currently 203.
So pick 17, so like the mid-second.
Yeah. We like that? We sending that? All right.
I mean, I'd be very happy if that went through.
Yeah, maybe he comes back just asking for 2 seconds.
Pollard in 2 seconds for Olave? Gotcha. All right. So
which we also have a ton of 25 seconds that we could try to lump in if he asks for a second.
Yeah, 2025 is where we clean up on this thing, this draft thing. All right. I'm also going to message him and let him know that we sent the counter. And Drew, do you still have that quarterback trade in your inbox?
I do. I've been sitting on it all day trying to figure out if I want to. This is what I sent originally. This comes out of last week talking with Bill about where we see, CJ Stroud at this point and Joe Burrow. And, of course, Burrow had a great game thanks to T. Higgins. I don't know that it was – or not T. Higgins, to Jamar Chase. So his stat line certainly looks better with 3 touchdowns on the board. So my original offer was Burrow for Stroud and 2 seconds back. And my trade partner here said it was close and thought he might counter, but went through the weekend, let Burrow play. And then this morning I woke up to the exact same trade back in my inbox. And I'm a little bit stuck on if I want to just go with what I originally thought I wanted, or if there's enough after this weekend here to try to maybe move a little bit higher on the pick chart after consulting with you guys.
Yeah, it's that's a tough one, right? Because it's dynasty. You don't want to let one game change your viewpoint, but it always feels like that it does, right? Like it's amazing what 1 week can do, because just people are talking about maybe Cincinnati having to shut Burrow down, and now it's like, well, man, he threw some incredible passes this last week, and it's like, oh, maybe I forgot about this, I forgot that he's this good. And he had some, he was bouncing around the pocket. He was kind of looking back. At least you could see glimpses of healthy Burrow, and so he's the name, he's the safe option, and does 2 second-round picks. Is that enough to downgrade to the riskier asset in the hopes that he becomes Joe Burrow? Right? That's essentially what you're hoping, is he becomes a top 6 quarterback. Seconds, like I said, seconds to me are pretty much sweeteners at this point. Like there's always some players, probably the first 3 or 4 picks of the second round, but once you get to pick 18, it feels like it's just from 18 to 30 is the same. And
that was Marvin Mims this year.
Yeah. So it's like, or it could be just somebody that we don't even remember, like it's just one of those things. So I don't know. It's like you're giving up the safety of an elite quarterback to gain a few years in age, 3 or 4 years maybe. And you're getting a couple sweeteners for other trades that you can make.
Well, when you put it that way, Bill.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
He's trying to get the same trade of what, no, the price has changed,
right.
We both got more information.
Tempted. Yeah, I was very tempted to send the Kevin Costner gift.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that was 30 seconds ago.
I said this in our chat. I said, I've been high on CJ Stroud since the beginning. So I looked at it and I sent you the thinking face because I could imagine getting that trade in my inbox and at least being like, okay, like this is interesting. But then I think at the end of it, kind of like what Bill was saying, 2 seconds is nice, but I think in a situation like that, I think a first needs to be attached.
Yeah. I mean, he's
even if that
first place in the league.
112 or 114, what I don't know.
Yeah, it's 112.
112. Like, anything with a 1 in front of it always holds, that value, And it doesn't matter how many teams. I mean, we were talking about 14-team league in the last trade offer, and 114 has 1 in front of it, even though it's the 14th best player. Seconds, you're right, are a crapshoot, whether it's Marvin Mims or Josh Downs, or even last year, remember a guy named David Bell? That guy is extinct now. They can be really bad or they can be really good. I mean, we can talk about all the second rounders that we love too. So, you're buying 4 years, which is nice. I mean, I think CJ Stroud is doing really well considering that. I mean, who is he really throwing to? I mean, we've loved Nico Collins, or I shouldn't say we, but people have loved Nico Collins since day one, but he hasn't been able to produce until CJ Stroud got there. John Mechie, he's making Tank Dell thing right now. Last week it was Dalton Schultz's turn to become an asset in that offense. And I think a lot of that is obviously the scheme that they're running. It's that San Francisco scheme, which seems to work everywhere, no matter who's playing it. But I think a lot of that is also CJ Stroud's talent. So imagine if this year they get, a top 3 receiver in this class, a real kind of legitimate guy. What could he turn into? It's kind of like what we saw with Burrow. Burrow was good year 1, then they draft Ja'Marr Chase, and here we go. Or they give T. Higgins a whole bunch of money, during the offseason. So I like it, but I think I would want the first instead of the 2 seconds.
Sounds good. I think I'll sit on it. I'm probably going to reject what's there for now, and then it sounds like that deal will probably be on the table for the remainder of the week if I wake up and change my mind somewhere.
Exactly. Bill, you got anything in the inbox that sounds interesting?
No, I tried to pepper my leagues today for Tajay Spears. I think I got all denials. I made some offers, some probably poor offers for Justin Jefferson. I knew that was going to be fruitless just because I have Justin Jefferson and I'm not trading him just because he's injured. So I was just hoping I could find one paper hands in the all of my leagues, but no. And I can't blame any of them.
But we've all done it before. We've made some, maybe not as equitable trades that were like, this person's probably going to say no. And then all of a sudden you get the accepted and you're like, oh, okay. It's kind of like a little Christmas present, under the tree. You're like, hey, look at that. Didn't expect to get this bike for Christmas. And that bike is, Justin Jefferson. So I get it. Before I go into another trade I have in my inbox, I want to kind of merge the question we got in the tweet that we sent out today from our boy J Money Jarrett. We all play in multiple leagues with him. And his question was, what are you doing in this environment in Dynasty where things turn on a dime? For example, people saying Puka's done after Kupp makes a few catches, for example. And this kind of streamlines into a trade I received. So Trade Addicts 2, another league that I am rebuilding in and actually doing it the right way because I currently would hold the number 1 overall pick if the the draft were to happen today. Trying to get rid of James Cook, not because I don't think he's good, but because he's a running back on a team that I don't like running backs and I'm rebuilding. And also, this is a trade addicts league. You only got to start one of those guys if you want to. So why do I want to have him? So I sent my boy Justin Mercer from the Coast to Coast podcast an offer of James Cook and a vaunted 4th round rookie pick for Luke Musgrave and a second. Justin, I believe, is like a top 4 team right now. So that second would probably be late. But, I'll get on the Luke Musgrave train a little bit early in a league where you have 1.75 tight end premium. And he switched it on me. He gave me a little okey doke. He said, well, keep your James Cook, which I was like, okay. And then he sent me Greg Dulcich, Luke Musgrave, and that second for one Puka Nacua. And that's how it weaves itself together with J Money's question. I have a lot of personal thoughts on this, but I don't want to influence either one of you. So, Drew, why don't you start first? What do you think about that deal? 2 tight ends and a 2nd round pick for Puka Nacua.
Bill and I talked last week. I got an offer in our Classics League for Puka of a late first that I turned down last week before Cup came back.
Mm-hmm.
And, now the Cup is back. Okay, it looks like, the world is kind of getting back to right again. But I still think I would rather have Puka in that scenario.
All right, so we got 1 vote for Puka. What about you, Bill? Do you like the tight ends and the pick, or do you like Puka Nacua?
I mean, I like Puka. I'm not sure Puka's ever going to be like the what he looked like the first month. I mean, you have the 1.75 and trade addicts. Musgrave looks like he's starting to earn some targets. You kind of split up an asset that you got probably cheaply into 3 that can help you, especially in a major rebuild. So I don't hate that side either. I think Puka is going to be fine. I think Puka will be probably in that wide receiver 2 to 3 area for as long as Stafford and McVay are there. I am a little concerned that if Stafford retires, it's a whole different world because of the way that Puka is. He's not like a super athlete, and I'm not sure he's like the fact that Stafford can be aggressive and throw the ball into tight spots that helps Puka. And I understand Puka gets open, but I get a little worried about his, the expectations for him moving forward once people kind of figure out his weaknesses a little bit. And so I'm fine taking either side, to be honest. I'd probably take the Musgrave side just because I'm much more pro these rookie tight ends. And Dulcich seems to be undervalued right now. So just because he's been injured and he still has some upside. So I think I'm okay taking that side. And I would probably lean that side until I had Puka on my team, and then I might not.
So we got 1 for Puka, 1 for the package. I respect Mercer's hustle. I do, because to completely flip a James Cook trade and try to turn it into a Puka Nacua trade is gutsy, and I like gutsy. But I mean, listen, Cooper Kupp, he ate last week, 6 receptions for 118 yards. But Puka Nacua had 7 for 71 and a touchdown. Like, that's not something to shake a stick at. I mean, his worst game of the season was 5 for 72. Like, there's a large majority of wide receivers in the league. If they get us 5 for 72 any given week, we're like, yeah, okay, that's a good week. We'll take the 12 points and, we'll call it a day, And that was his worst week. So I'm a big Puka guy. I actually took in Scott Fishbowl, I took Puka in the last round. That's how much I liked them, So that's a redraft league, A lot of people say, "Oh, don't take the rookies; they're not going to really do anything for you." I was like, "Oh, I'm like going to go keep them around, see what happens, right?" So I'm kind of like on Drew's side here. Like, if I'm even thinking about trading Puka, I need the pick to say 1 in front of it. I like Luke Musgrave. I do. Greg Dulcich, he doesn't do much for me just because when is that team going to get right? Like, Sean Payton was supposed to be the answer. I don't look like he's really the answer. Russell Wilson, I think, has been proven he ain't really the answer. So talk about two guys that are like there for long periods of time based on contracts they've been given, draft capital that's been given up to get them. And Cooper Kupp actually has an out in his contract after next season. If the Rams decide, like, hey, we won our championship, we're not getting back there again with this current team, and they kind of tear the whole thing down, I mean, we could be watching Puka Nacua as the number 1, and we kind of saw what that was when he was the number 1, and it was nice to see. Now, is he going to have a quarterback the caliber of Stafford? Probably not, because I'm assuming if Kupp is cut or traded, that would probably signal to Matt Stafford that it's time to go, unless he got traded somewhere as well, But I think the guy's going to be all right. I mean, I'm sure, I say all this now, and next week he has like 2 for 20, and I look like an idiot because, Puka Nacua came back down to earth. But this kind of rolls into what, Jay Money was saying, is like, dynasty is supposed to be this long-term thing, right? We're supposed to be thinking, not just for this week, not just for next week, but for, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, that 2 to 3 year window that a lot of people talk about. But it's kind of like what we were talking about with Justin Jefferson, right? Everybody's sending out an offer now to see if the Justin Jefferson owner is going to panic. And I'm sure if we kind of sourced it, we would find a couple leagues where the Justin Jefferson manager panicked and gave him up for, 75 or 80 cents on the dollar. You know what I mean? And it happens. I also don't like trading away young receivers in rebuild. Now, I would be getting a young tight end back, so it's not like, he offered me, Travis Kelce, let's just say, which is a bad example because that's still a good deal, even if you're a rebuilder, because you could probably trade Travis Kelce for something else. But
I think for the short term, I'm keeping Puka for now, and then if I don't know what the odds are on Kupp re-injuring or having something else come up in a few weeks, and then I think we know where Puka's value would go if he's the number 1 again for a couple of weeks, especially as you get close to the playoffs and stuff. And I think you could probably catch a team at that point that would maybe get back to closer to what Puka's value was maybe in week 3 or going into week 4. So I'm okay holding there to see as well, because I don't think it goes too much lower. Even if, even if he does, lay an egg next week, 2 for 20, 3 for 30, whatever, there's enough to go around there. So I don't know that he's somebody that I would want long term on my team, unless he's just, again, like Bill said, I picked him up for nothing and he's my number 6, number 7 wide receiver, and I just have that luxury. But if you have that luxury, you can wait for the deal that you want as well.
Yeah. Totally agree. So Mercer, whenever you listen to this, you'll probably get the trade denial before that. But I do respect the hustle because, like I said, this was originally a James Cook trade that got completely flipped on its head. Was unexpected, but yeah, I think I'm gonna hold steadfast right now, and see where it takes us. While we talk about, oh, go ahead, Bill.
I was just looking at some recent trades for Puka, just to see if anything kind of popped up.
Okay.
And in the last week, Puka in a second for JSN and a 25 second.
Ooh.
Puka straight up for Musgrave in a safe league.
Wow.
So that's what, 1.75? Is that what it is?
It's a 2-point premium in safe leagues.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't think his offer is like out of line. It's just a matter of your preference,
For sure, yeah.
And I mean, that's one trade too. So it's not like it's
happening everywhere.
Yeah. No, it looks like it got reversed. So, yeah, it immediately went back. So that did not happen. Puka and Durham Smythe for Tajay, Spears, and Pitts.
Okay.
Puka for Zach Ertz, a first and a second. Puka for Brian Robinson, Romeo Dubs, and Sky Moore. So, I mean, it's not that like egregiously out of like in left field or anything. It's just a matter of preference of players, kind of thing.
And I don't think it was a bad deal, because if I thought it was terrible, I just would have rejected it. I wouldn't have even brought it up. Like I said, I had my own personal feelings about it, but I did want to hear, especially you, Bill, because I like hearing the opposite side. Like, what am I maybe not looking at because I have liked Puka Nacua for a very long time? And by the way, just so you know, I make fun of 4th and 5th round picks. Got Puka Nacua at 502. So they hit sometimes. Now, I'm also looking at all of the other players around Puka Nacua. It's gross. So you can get lucky every once in a while. And, those are the picks you brag to everyone about. I got Puka Nacua in the 5th round. And, you don't tell them about, all the other guys that never made it that he took in the 4th and 5th round as well. But yeah, so we got a little bit of time on the schedule. So I threw this one in here. Obviously did not prep for this, so it's going to be fun to put you guys on the spot. I can go first if that helps you do a little bit of pregame research, so to speak. But let's go through some dynasty MVPs through week 5. Obviously, there's still a whole lot of season left to play, but let's talk about some of the guys that we've been happy to have on our teams, or maybe we haven't been so happy to play against. So I'll start first, and I'm going to make it an easy one because I'm starting first. Christian McCaffrey. Now, we always say about Christian McCaffrey, right? He catches balls. He runs. He does everything, right? But there's always touchdowns, right? Touchdowns, we always hear, are not a sticky stat. Well, he has scored in 14 straight games now. They're a little bit sticky for Christian McCaffrey. And I mean, he's done everything that, we said, right? He catches everything. He runs. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's not fumbling. He doesn't drop a lot of passes. I mean, if you have him on your team, you're probably doing really, really well in whatever league, whether it's redraft, dynasty, best ball, IDP, campus to can. It doesn't matter. He's probably helping your team a lot. And I love it. You can't, I don't think you can trade for the guy. I mean, unless you're willing to give up your entire team to get him, because he's just that valuable. So I don't know who wants to go next. I gave a little speech about Christian McCaffrey. Hopefully bought you guys some time. Drew, the finger pointed at you, so I guess you're next.
I'm going to go in the wide receiver route here, and I'm going to double dip, and hopefully I don't steal whatever Bill's looking at. But a guy that people weren't really. There are a few folks that were touting him. We mentioned him earlier, but I've got a couple of teams with Nico Collins on it so far, and he has been a pleasant surprise as a solid wide receiver 2 for most of my leagues. And then I had no idea what to expect this year with Davante Adams at this point, knowing he's getting older and just kind of waiting for that cliff to come as well. And he's been very helpful in a couple of leagues. Traded for him in one league this summer, actually, which felt like a pretty big gamble at the time. But so far, he's done nothing but help my team. Even week 4 when he went out for the first half, really didn't make points up, and then still came back and had a solid second half for me. So those are two wide receivers that I'm excited to have on multiple rosters at this point.
Yeah, love. Nico Collins has been a steal for pretty much anybody who drafted him. You've had to sit on him for a couple of years unless you've traded around for him. I bought, as I said earlier, I really like CJ Stroud, so I picked a receiver on the Texans and just hope I hit the right one. Unfortunately, I went with John Mechie, not the right guy, but Nico Collins is becoming that guy. Depending on the league, he's a wide receiver 1 for you right now. I mean, top 12 guy. So, I mean, that's probably great for a guy that, where was he getting drafted? Definitely double-digit rounds, so it's great to find a guy like that when you're that late into the draft. All right, Bill, it's up to you. Fantasy, dynasty, MVP, who is it?
So I'm going to go with probably the cheapest player of the 3 listed in the preseason, but Raheem Mostert, just being a top 5 running back when you probably could have gotten him for 3rd round pick anytime this offseason is my guess. And being there's a little bit of concern with HN and things like that, but they seem to be putting up points together, and he's going to have a few more weeks without HN, so it's like there's a lot of these cheap running backs that have kind of been, if you could have just not spent on running back and you end up with like Zach Moss or Kyron Williams or anybody like that, I mean, your team's doing pretty well. And now for my biased one, because it looks like Drew's getting kicked out, the Sam Laporta getting drafted in the 2nd round, and he's a top 4 tight end now. And probably in Dynasty, there's probably not a lot of tight ends that people would trade if they have Sam Laporta. Like, are you trading Laporta for Hawkinson? Like, probably not even worth making that trade for most people. So,
Was
if
it
you have one or
sure?
the other, you just kind of keep them, right? So,
For sure.
so it's pretty much Andrews and maybe Pitts, if people still believe in him. But aside from
I'm
that,
100% trying to send Pitts to get Laporta in the one league that I have Pitts.
Yeah. No, I think both of them are great. And the crazy thing about Laporta is this isn't a situation where he's on a team that has no other weapons on it. I mean, they kind of have the backfield duo of Montgomery and Gibbs, and then they have, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams is back now, a couple other guys. So what we'll do here is we're going to wrap this up. Josh, we're just going to do one Josh to another since you threw this in chat. Rate my team, 20-man PPR team, Russ, JT, Aaron Jones, Tyreek, Christian Kirk, Kmet, Josh Downs. And then he says he recently traded for Hill, Jones, Kirk, and traded today for Jones. All right, so let's go to this one. It's all right. I mean, Russ is Russ, man. JT, I think he's going to be fine. Wasn't great first week back, but we didn't expect it to be. Aaron Jones is getting bit by that injury bug. Oh, Tyreek, great. Christian Kirk is going to be good for you. Kmet, nah, and then Josh Downs. I mean, I think it's average at best. I think you got some holes there. So on that note, thanks to Josh. Thanks to Puff Pass Kick. Most importantly, thanks to Drew doing this from a local dining establishment. Can't say the name because we're not sponsored by them, but that's how committed he is to all y'all. He's sitting in there doing his thing. I just want to thank Bill. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, subscribe, rate, and review. That is always helpful. And if you want to get a hold of us at Fantasy Timeline, our handles are on the screen at Real Fantasy TL, at DR_PRA, and at Super Dupaflex. And we are out of here.
wait.